Realty and Core 90 training. Today is Wednesday, January 22nd, 2025, and I'm super excited because we have one of our top growth leaders and coaches inside the community, John Sellers, here to talk to us today about how to absolutely max out the returns in your business by the lowest cost lead source you'll ever have, which is your database, your data bank, where you store all this information and what do you do with it. More importantly, right? We know that most agents, if asked, are like, I don't have my database. We're going to talk about that today. But then beyond that, if you've got it, if you've been tracking that, if you've been collecting that data, what do you do with it? And I love that we're going to hear from one of the top coaches, one of my top coaches, somebody who's coached me personally, John, in terms of how do you even get started with this and what's the thought process? But let's bring you up here and get rocking with folks, man.
Thanks, Jeff.
You bet.
Hey, guys, I'm super excited to be here. And I just want to thank each of you for being here and taking the time and let you know that I truly care about each of you and that I want the best for you guys this coming year. I want the best for all of us. And to realize that this year could be a tough year like last year. But while some people are struggling, some people are having the best years they've ever had. So a lot of it has to do with our attitude, digging back into our work ethic, which isn't always easy. And you know what we're going to talk about today is something that seems really basic. But what I found is that if we can really nail down the basics, we have the ability to be creative. But the first is about really, once we need to have the basics in place. Sometimes people try to get really creative before they've really got the basics in place. And that can be a challenge. So for some of you that maybe have mastered this piece, it's going to be a great reminder of some things you can add. For those of you that haven't, there's going to be, I think, some things in this. And we're going to be able to talk through this. Go ahead and put things in the chat. Jeff's great about picking things up in the chat, adding to them. There's going to be some room in this, I believe, for people to ask questions if you'd like. And we could talk about things that are working for you as well. So Jeff, if you'd give me the ability to share, I'm going to go with my simple slides.
You're good to go.
Okay, buddy. Okay, let's see here. All right. So maximizing your past clients in your database. 10 simple steps. And I'm going to say they're simple. Most of them are actually pretty easy too, but they take some time. So let's dig into these. We may talk about more as we go, but this is, let me see if I can make this work properly. It should. There we go. So one of the things is we're talking about clients, and I talk about this with people all the time. I say, people don't know how much you care. People don't know how much you people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Okay. It's funny, I can say that in my mind and then trying to read it, I can't read it. People do not care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so I ask agents all the time, and let's get into this with people. I'll ask agents, say, well, tell me about your client. They say, what do you mean? I say, well, what does she do for a living? I don't know. What does he do for a living? I don't know. How come they ended up in your market? What's their background? How many kids do they have? And what I find is often agents don't know these things. And what I find is if you don't know these things, people don't know that you really care. And if they don't really connect with you, they're not going to actually share with you what their truest feelings are. And when people share their truest feelings with you, you're more likely to serve them at a higher level. You're more likely to find a house for them quicker, and they're more likely to refer you because they feel connected to you. So while there's all these systems we can do, guys, if you add the heart element, everything gets expanded. So think through that, like, that idea of like when I'm, often when I'm working with people and when I was busy selling houses, it would be like, a lot of times I'd be praying for those people. Like, hey, what's going on in their life, Lord? Can you help them? Like, what's going through that? Because I wanted that connection. I wanted them to be winning. Some people may say that's a little crazy, but I think it's pretty special, and I think it makes a huge difference in this world. So let's dig into the first one. Here we go. Step number one. This is step number one. Do you have, so let's go into this, past clients. I like to call them inactive clients versus past clients, but I'll use past clients because it's a simpler term that everyone knows. You know, your current clients, these are the people that you're actually working with today, and your sphere. You know, so what is your sphere? Really, this is a lot of places that people don't really maximize this. Who are all the people that you know? And we start thinking like, oh, I don't know them that well. Well, if you started finding more information about them and started providing value to them, they're going to start attaching to you what you do. So what do we do about inputting all your past clients, current clients, and sphere into your CRM? I find that most people don't have them all in. They want to get to it, but they don't get to it. So when I talk about this, it really means about names, phone numbers of both spouses, you know, partners, emails, birthdays, anniversaries, address, email. A lot of times today, all we find is that people get names, phone numbers, email. They don't even add their addresses in. They don't add birthdays. They don't add anniversaries of when people bought their house. It's a big deal to get all these pieces in. And it's not hard to find that data anymore, guys. Obviously, for your past clients, you can just go back and look in the MLS and figure these things out. But for people in your sphere, you may not have it. But today, technology, if you haven't figured it out, people can find everything out about you pretty fast. And we're going to talk about ways to get birthdays and things that if you don't have them already. Now, the key is once you add them is how do you segment them? There's a lot of different ways to do it. So you need to find how you want to do it. And with most things, you can put multiple tags inside of it. With KV Core, you can put multiple tags. So I like to categorize people by maybe an A, B, and a C. So A's would be people that, man, if I called them, they would know me right away. You know, and these are my favorite people, maybe people have referred me. Then B's are going to be people that, hey, I know pretty well. They're going to pick up. And C's would be people in my sphere that I'm not that connected with. But I want to make sure that I have it categorized, one by past clients, have those class clients. And then the other is when I look at everybody, I want to look and find out, and Joanne and I went through this, you know, is that I want to know who have referred me people. That is a really key thing, guys, is to put a tag for people that have already referred you. We are creatures of habit. Who do you think is the most likely person that's going to refer you? Somebody speak up. Anybody? Joe?
Your family.
Yeah, maybe.
Somebody
Not in the
who's
beginning. Not in the beginning, right?
Or your sphere, your past clients.
Somebody that's already referred you,
Yeah.
right? Somebody that's already referred you already has a habit, and they've already proven they're willing to do it. So we're looking through, and I want to see everybody that's already referred me. And then I want to see how many times. Now, when I talk about a referral, guys, I'm not talking that they actually referred me somebody that did business. Because what we're trying to do is create a habit. What we don't want people to do is pre-qualify referrals for us. You ever had people do that where they're like, well, I had this friend that we're thinking about buying, but I weren't sure if they were serious, so I didn't want to waste your time. You ever had that happen? And you're like, no, don't qualify for them. So it's teaching clients and sphere, hey, if you've got somebody that's moving in the next 6 months to a year, this is the verbiage. Hey, Joe, if you know somebody that's moving in the 6 months or a year, hey, could you let me know right away? Because, Joe, have you noticed that, like, not all realtors are created equally? And sometimes your friends have bad experiences. Have you had that happen before? Yes. You know, I did a great job for you, Joe, or, you know, how do you think I did? We're having this conversation. Hey, what I'd like to do, if anybody that you think's about moving, if you could call and let me introduce myself. And that way, because what I've found, Joe, is have you ever noticed that, like, when somebody, let's just role play with this, Joe, will you, with me? Sure. So have you ever noticed, Joe, and we'll just bring you a client, Joe, have you ever noticed that when somebody hands you their card, and it's something you might be thinking about, you know, you might be going to buy a car, you're going to do something. They hand you your card, but you're not ready to buy today, but you have that card for a little while, then you put it on your desk, and somehow it just disappears, right? And then you wake up one day and you go, today's the day I'm going to buy a car. And you're like, I can't remember where that card was. So you go out and buy a car from somebody else, the first one there. Have you ever had that happen before?
Yeah, absolutely. All the
Yeah,
time.
right. So if you're a client, so that happens, Joe. So we don't want that to happen to your friends, because I don't want them to end up with a bad agent or just walking into an open house and not being protected. Do you?
No,
Right.
no, yeah.
So, hey, if you think of somebody, what I'd like to do is just have you introduce them to me. That way I can call and reach out and I can start providing some value to them and getting them prepared. Because most people say they're a year out, but they're really only 6 months. We usually half it. That's what we've learned over time. You guys, if you haven't heard that before, it's true, right? So, Joe, if you could give me his name, I just call and introduce myself, get them some value added. That way, when they wake up that day and decide they're going to go, they don't have to search and try to remember where that card is. Because have you ever felt before too, like, oh, that guy Freddie gave me that card, but I feel embarrassed to call him now because I lost it, right?
Mhm.
So this is one of the things that we want to do with referrals. So we're getting people trained. So we come back to, thank you, Joe. What we come
Hey,
back to,
John.
what do we want to do in terms of looking at who our top people have referred? Because what we want to do is the moment that person refers somebody to us, we're wanting to thank them for the action, not the result. So that's when right away we're going to get a thank you card out. Whether you do that online with a send out card or you do that handwritten, we want that card and a little gift to them. Now, a little gift would be, well, it used to be a $5 Starbucks card. You might have to send them a $10 now just to get one card. However, so let's say it's a $10 Starbucks card. So people say, well, man, that referral's worth $5,000 or $10,000. Is that really enough? And I'm going to come back to a book, and maybe you've heard me say this before by Robert, is it Cialdini? Called Influence. If you haven't read this book, you want to get it. Because people don't respond equally based upon the price of what they refer you. Let me give you an example of this, and maybe you've heard me say it before. And Cialdini in this book talks about this example. I don't know if any of you have had a speeding ticket before, and the option is you can go in and take a class and you can get it moved off your record, right? You can get one of those a year, one every 2 years. What is that, Joe? You got a ticket recently?
Yeah, I got it in the mail yesterday. I'm looking at my options.
So you're going to go be able to take a class and get it removed.
Yeah.
So there was a sample where somebody went into a class, and we've all of us probably have children or close to having children on here. We've been bugged by somebody, where they're out there doing their nonprofit thing, and they want you to buy that $10 chocolate bar, right? And you're like, dang, I really don't want to spend $10 for a chocolate bar, but okay, I'll help. So this person went into this room. They didn't know anybody. And at afternoon or so, they go around and ask everyone to buy. Very few people buy. So then they go into another class, and instead they go out, this person goes out to Costco or whatever, buys a bunch of waters that cost what? Or flavored waters, or 10 cents a piece, right? 20 cents a piece. And they hand those to everybody in the morning just as a gift. Then they go back that afternoon and try to ask them to buy buy the chocolate bar. The numbers are not cataclysmic, that would be a bad word to use, but they would be amazingly different in the amount of people that responded. It's called the law of reciprocity. They felt that they owed that person something because of what they've done. If you've ever traveled overseas and you go into the Middle East, the first thing they want to do when you go to buy a rug is want to get you to sit down and get you to have tea, because they know Americans feel very bad that if they're given something, they don't respond. It's an American psyche. If you're old enough, you might remember the Hare Krishnas. They wanted you to take that little flower because they knew if you took that flower, you would feel guilty not giving something. So we're not trying to make people feel guilty. We just understand how the laws of reciprocity works, and that's just one of them. So as we're doing referrals, the idea is we don't have to respond with big gifts. We just have to recognize them and understand that. And then when the deal closes, you may choose to do something a little bit bigger, because we want to keep encouraging them on that, right? And we want to train them that they don't have to be responsible for the results. All we're asking for is them to help us get the process started. Now we talk about the top 50. I want to segment my database, and this is critical, by who have already referred you people. Who are your top 20? Hopefully you have 20 people that have referred you somebody. And then we're going to look down and say, if I don't have that, who are the people that are most likely to refer you? And we also want to look at the people that have the ability to refer. So there's certain people in your groups that have large networks, or they have large influence. So when I was younger and living in Arizona, I had a buddy that was just one of those guys. Like, everybody trusted him, everybody liked him, and he had a company with 300 employees, and he was there at the facility all the time. Often when people were having life-changing events, they would come and ask him, hey, John, his name was John. Hey, John, I'm thinking about buying a house. What do you think I should do? And what did John do? Hey, you got to call John Sellers. And John would call me and give me their name. I could count on that being $80,000 to $100,000 a year in commissions, back when commissions were only $6,000 or $7,000. So it was 10 to 15 deals a year often. And a lot of the people he referred were higher net worth. So when we're looking at that top 50, first we're going to go, who have already referred us? Then we're going to break it and say, if that's not it, who in our network has the most likeliness to want to refer us and has the ability or the network to do that, so that we know we need to deepen that and provide more value to them, or deepen that relationship so they're more likely to refer, and we actually talk about it. So think about this top 20, top 50. If you've got a huge database, it could be a top 100. And it also could be people in there that you just recently sold a house to that were really excited. So figure out who those are. A lot of times people think their top 50 are the people they dislike the most. Unfortunately, the people that you like the most and like you the most aren't always the people that refer. It's not the way, because we have different types of personalities that are connectors. There's certain people in your network that like to connect other people. Do you have people like that, that know everybody? And they're always wanting to. Yesterday, I was on a call, and Jake Rockwell's going down to Arizona, and I'm looking through my database, and one of my good buddies runs a big podcast down there. So yesterday, just natural to me, hey, Ryan, I think you should talk to Jake. Jake would be a great guy to have on your podcast. Would you be open to that? Ryan gets right back to me. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. And then it's like my text between the two of them. Hey, you guys, I think Jake would be great on your podcast, Ryan. I want to introduce you to, but you just should get to know each other either way. So there's people in your environment that are those type of people. We want to tap into that and be one of those people they think about connecting. And if you're a great agent, you're only going to be helping them because they want to refer great people, but oftentimes they just haven't thought of you in that. Now, I spent a lot of time on this, guys. I'm spending a lot of time on it because it's super critical. And I find most agents don't do this. Most agents don't do this. They don't think critically about how big this can be. An extra 5 or 10 referrals a year in your business. See if somebody refers you 10 people, or overall your group refers you 15 people and 7 of them turn into deals at $10,000 a deal. That's $70,000. That's almost your cap. And what I'm talking about today is becoming intentional. Most of us, we're hard workers. We're really good with people, but we aren't intentional about our actions daily. And we aren't intentional about what we're doing and how it's going to play out over time. And things take time. So let's go into step number 2. Now, this may take a week, guys. You might say, well, how do I? Hey, you're going to have to take some time to look through this and really dig in. There's rarely anybody that can't have a database of 250 people if you really dig in and figure that out. And don't get caught up in like, oh, I haven't talked to them in 5 years. I'm trying to tell my daughter now that's 25. She had all these girls that she went to high school with. And how high school was like, things went funny, people you didn't like, and they had all these issues. And I keep reminding her, like, every year farther you get away from high school, nobody remembers all that stuff. And if you actually reach back out to them, they forgot all of it. And they're just happy that you actually took the effort to reach out. And then there's guys like Joe and I that went to high school together, and all of our friends were similar, and we never met each other. Just crazy. So I don't know where that came from. But all right, let's go on to number 2. So this, when I say step number 1, this is critical. I love what I call breaking bread. There's something about the physical connection of meeting with people. For some of you, this may be, and I'm going to add to this breaking bread, I want you to go into your calendar and block out 2 to 3 75-minute blocks per week. Now, that could be lunches, that could be coffee. And I want you to review your top 50 and start calling and fill your calendar for the next couple of weeks. Now, some people say, oh, if I schedule that call, it just ends up being a 3-hour meeting. Well, have it not be. Have it be 75 minutes. You got to be done in 75 minutes. One of the ways that I've found this helps for a guy like me that talks too much is that just ask questions about them. And when it gets to the point where you feel like you got to start talking about yourself, that's time for the meeting to end. Because they really don't care about us. They do, but it's really important for them to talk. And during that time, we want to make sure that they're always going to ask you about real estate. You don't have to bring it up. They're going to ask how it's going. At that point, they're in there. You want to be sharing how much, hey, you've been so blessed. You've been getting referrals. It really means a lot. I need so many of them. Hey, Joe, if you have somebody that comes along and you can have that story like, hey, this would be a blessing if you did this, Joe. It's not expected, but boy, it'd be a blessing. If you think of somebody that's moving in the next year or two, would you be open to calling me now and introducing me to them and giving me their name? Because I found if you just give them my name, it just doesn't happen. Would you be open to doing that? It becomes natural part of that conversation. But I can tell you, and so this is a way when I was doing this really regularly, I basically took those 20 and I started calling people, hey, and I actually had my assistant do it back then. And she'd be like, people call and say, oh, you got your girl calling them. And I'm like, I'm laughing going, well, if it didn't, we wouldn't have a meeting with you. And I really want to get together with you. I really want to just catch up. And so what we would do is we would look at the calendar and we call them and say, hey, I've got these available. What would work for you? And I'd look at over the next 2 or 3 weeks and fill it in. Hey, I think that's going to work. Well, let's just lock it in. I'll call you on Monday just to confirm that time's going to work. So you want to make sure to always be calling. But I'm telling you, people are starving for connection. And most people are not being asked to lunch or to coffee. And you may say, I don't have a big budget. This doesn't have to be anywhere fancy. That's why I say go to coffee. You buy them a coffee, it's 10, 12 bucks. If you're going to go to lunch, go to a cheap taco place. They don't care. So if you start doing that 2 or 3 times a week, you're going to find, one, you're energized because you're not just in your little world. And people say, well, today not many people are saying I'm too busy to do this. It's just where they're organized enough to do it. But if you're too busy, you can still find it. You can still find that time because one of the things that when we're busy, we have to make sure that we keep doing the fundamentals. And if you're too busy to do the fundamentals, then the point is we got to start hiring somebody to help us do those fundamentals. So once you get too busy, so what I find is so many of us, we get busy, then we quit doing the things that brought the business, and we just keep going back into that cycle, guys. So what would it be like if you pick that top 50 and then you could sort them however you want. Don't spend too much time thinking about it and just reach out. Hey, give me a buzz. Hey, when can we get together for a cup of coffee? When do these times work for you? And you're going to find most people are honored and most people will respond, especially if you look out and say, I've got, what's it look like in the next 2 or 3 weeks? And I guarantee you, if you start doing this consistently, and if you ask one of our top agents in our group is a guy named Steve Thomas. Steve does this consistently, let alone some other things, calling every week. But if you do this every week for 6 or 7 weeks, not are you going to find you've deepened your relationships, which is going to make you feel better. You're going to start seeing referrals come over time because people feel more connected. Does anybody have any questions on that or any concerns of doing that or the logistics of it? So one of the things you're going to see through this, I'm having you start to fill your calendar.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a question. I just had a comment about that because, I'm starting off the 2025 and meeting with my team. We definitely went over the whole concept of connection with people in general. And this falls absolutely in the line of it, just making somebody feel important right now. And you never know where anybody's at in life. But the fact that they got a call from you and say, I'm thinking about you, it'd be great for us to get coffee. It's just not something people do with the intention of just simply getting coffee and connecting with somebody. And everybody needs that right now. And I know that if somebody called and asked me that, hey, you want to go for coffee sometime, it'd heighten my mood and make me feel good. I think that just generally speaking, it's going to make somebody feel better just by making the call and reaching out.
I agree. And I think also with that meeting, my intention during that meeting, that coffee is not about how do I get something from them. I know that if I do that enough and I share with them and I give my heart and I listen, right? And we're all hurting in one way or another. And we find that connection together. I know that if I do that enough, good things just happen, right? Now, it doesn't mean I'm not going to slip a few things in potentially if it feels natural about, hey, referrals, or hey, I'd love your help if you can do it. But that's not the intention. The intention is about spreading love. The intention is to be of service and deepening a relationship with somebody. And the key is not to worry too much about whether you think they're going to say yes or no. And if they say no, don't take it personal, which is hard for us. But that idea that, hey, I just want to connect, right? It's been a long time, right? Let's just do this. My speech was, hey, I'm just being intentional this year about connecting with people that I haven't connected with. I'm just being intentional that I want to spend time with more people that I've been too busy or let myself be distracted and not doing that. Would that be cool? And most people are going to respond positively, be surprised. So don't be intimidated by it at all about so if there's somebody even big in that sphere that you want to get to know more, that you think can have big influence and you're nervous about, overcome it. And when you overcome it, you will gather more strength, even if they say no. So let's move on. But again, what I'm looking here is put the time in your calendar. Now, when you call them, you may have to be flexible with that. But if you have 3 that you know you have to fill or 4, then even if somebody cancels, you're always going to have 2. And what you can also do is if you call everybody on Mondays and your meetings are, somebody misses, you could call and try to fill that back up. It's a game. So let's go to number 3. Look at this basics, guys. Handwritten note cards. Pretty simple. We've all probably done it in the past and stopped. What am I going to write? My handwriting sucks. It's embarrassing, maybe. So I'm on a board of a charity here in town. And part of it is that 1 month a year, I'm responsible for writing handwritten cards to people that donated. And I don't know them. Well, my handwriting's not great. So my first instinct is, oh, I can't do this. I'm not going to do it. I don't know, right? So I take my time. It takes me a little more time to write each of them. But I know that the handwritten is actually even better than a send out card. But a send out card is better than not doing it. Now, the funny thing is, I have a send out card that I've had. Does everybody know what send out cards is? It's an online, it's been around forever. It's an online greeting card. It's really cool because you can add pictures and all kinds of things. And there was a young man in our group about 5 years ago that sent me a picture, and he had taken something off the internet of me working out, right? And I'm flexing or something, and I put it on Facebook, how happy I was to be getting my little muscles a little bigger. And he sent me this card with me on the front and said, hey, John, I'm so encouraged by you working out. It's inspiring me. Just keep rocking, brother. I really appreciate you. I kept that card by my bed for 5 years. One, because I like looking at myself, probably. That's it, right? So, But, that point was, it's like, think about that impact. So the idea is go out and buy 50 cards. They don't have to be fancy. The little 3x4s. And these are the words. And then and notice this second line. Block out 60 minutes in your calendar each of the next 10 weeks. You notice how I'm saying things about blocking time in your calendar? Because what's in our calendars, if we're accountable at all, and even if we're not accountable, it keeps reminding us we're going to do things. Think about that. One day a week, we block out 60 minutes. And who do we start writing those cards to first? Maybe that top 50. And people say, run out of people to write to. You don't have to say much. If all I got a card is, Amy, you and I don't really know each other, right? But if we'd met a couple times, and all I did was say, hey, Amy, you just came to mind today. I don't know what's going on, but I just want to let you know I was thinking about you, and I just hope you have a blessed day and a blessed week. And if there's anything I can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. God bless, John. And maybe I drop a card in there, depending on whether I thought you'd know me or not. How would you feel if you got that? You can speak up, Amy. Just have to unmute.
I'd feel pretty good if I got that.
Would you think it was weird even if you didn't know me very well?
I've gotten lots of weird cards over the years, so no.
But it still feels good, doesn't it?
Yes, it always feels good. My 401k guy always sends me a birthday card and a text, and I always appreciate it.
And so these are things, guys, about, thanks, Amy, I appreciate it.
No
So
problem.
the key really is not to worry about what you're going to say. The lines are not hard. I texted somebody that way yesterday I hadn't talked to in a couple of years. As I was writing this, made me think about it. Hey, man, I haven't talked to you in a while. I was thinking about you today. How you doing, man? And we had this, then he texted me back that night. Hey, man, I just got back from Austria, da-da-da. I quit drinking. I sold all my beer stuff. I'm working on a Harley right now that I'm rebuilding. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. It sounds you're doing great, man. Hey, hope to talk soon. Let's keep in touch, right? That was all it was. And so what you write these note cards, there's two things that happen. One is you have the potential to just make somebody's day a little better. Number two is what I found is your day is better. Your self-esteem goes up when you're sending love out to other people. When you are showing acts of kindness and recognition, there's just something that does for you and for me. And so many things I'm talking about today, they sound like they're focused outward, but I know what they will do for me and for you. And the more power we have inside of us of the good feelings and the energy that's going out, there's just something about how the world seems to respond. So many things I'm talking about, they seem esoteric, guys, but there's action involved in each of them. So if we do 5 or 10 cards a week, and you might get to the point where and you can keep track of who you wrote to. You might get to the point where, man, I don't have anyone else to write to. Then you just start writing to your title person. You start writing to other people and you start thinking about people. And you can start adding them to your database. And if you get into this habit, and notice what I'm talking about, habits. When things become like brushing your teeth, everything gets easier. When these core things happen. So write those 5 or 10 cards a week. How much do they cost? Well, mail is what, 78 cents a piece now? So it might be $1.10. Now, a lot of things I'm talking about today, guys, if you really did all of them, it might cost you $1,000 a month when we get to the end. But for everybody on this call, most people here from Oregon or in a bigger market, your average commission's $10,000 at least, even if it's only 8. When I talk about all these things I'm doing, do you not think you're going to get one extra referral that will more than pay for that, even if it was $12,000 a year? Now, of course, that's going to be averaged out over the year. What is the chances of, but the idea is if it costs you a deal and a half, do you not think you're going to get an extra 2 deals from this? I can tell you if you do this, you're going to get a lot more than that. And so we have to be investing, right? We're investing in what we're doing. Most people think they can do something with nothing, and you certainly can, but you're not going to grow at the same level. So let's go to number 3. Is anybody already right? Does anybody have a habit of doing note cards every week? No? Has anybody ever done that before for a while and started and stopped it?
I do note cards. This is Emily. I do note cards often, and I've won many a listing for sending a thank you card after a listing appointment. And I went up against top agents in Medford, where I live, and they're like, "You're the only one that's written us a card."
Yeah, and did you say anything special other than just thank you? I mean, it wasn't
Yeah, it was like
some elegant sales pitch, right?
meeting me.
People want to be responded. Remember, guys, people don't get a lot of mail anymore. I mean, I remember the days when, when I was younger, it was like you'd get 100 Christmas cards. And we get maybe 15 or 20 now. And I think that's a lot, probably compared to what most people get.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a little comment. So every year, the G team, we have pie day. Everybody comes and gets their pumpkin pie, and some people, it's funny that they can go buy the pie for $6 at Costco, but they'll literally come to our office to pick up their pie and see us, and we make it this social thing. Well, anyway, this year, Ricky and I made a special note, to which we've never done this. The 20 agents of ours that came to get pie, we personally wrote them a thank you note for coming in to see us and how much it meant for us to actually see their faces,
Was that the agents, did you say, or past clients?
Past clients.
Okay.
So we had like 150 G team clients come in or whatever, but I can't remember how many ours were, but whatever our portion was. We sent them a note. Well, anyway, a couple of people literally called us and said, thanks for the note. But one in particular said, your card made me cry. It made me realize how important you both are in my life. And we don't see each other enough. And we definitely have to get together in January. Let's get it on the calendar, So just, just that impact, that's the impact that a little card can have when you just acknowledge somebody for showing up, or whatever. So it was pretty impactful on us.
So tell me how impactful it was for you when you were just writing them. Thinking about those people.
It was cool. I mean, some of our agents, said, hey, can you bring it to me or da-da-da. And so we did a lot of delivery type stuff too. And we didn't write them any cards. It was only the people that took the time to show up and say, hey, and fellowship with us a little bit on the pie day. And so it was special to us to acknowledge them. And it made us realize, they came, parked their car, got out, came in, talked to us for a little bit, said hi, ate some salami or whatever. And so it made us appreciate them more as we're writing the note, because it's like, yeah, this person came in and this person came in. And anyway, it was a great, I had to do all the writing because absolutely nobody can read Ricky's writing. So that, they write this one, But anyway, it was fun. And I think it was a good lesson for us to realize how much that can mean to somebody. And like you said, meant to us just to take the time to acknowledge them.
That's awesome. Now, one of the things Joanne talked about is this pumpkin thing. That's a lot of agents try to do that. Very few of them put it together. So that's where we talk about creativity. That's not going to be in my top 10, but that's certain something as you get advanced, it's such a great thing to do. The agents I do it have a great response. But what I want to share with this is that one of the things in America, when they're studying and seeing about Americans, most people in America feel lonely. That is a big problem in America today. People, even though are busy and doing things, they still feel isolated and they still feel alone. And I'm not isolated because they're, the whole COVID thing or anything. It was that way before. They aren't feeling the heartfelt connections. And we know that the more heartfelt connections that we have in a week, I could tell you if all of you went out and said, my goal this week is to have 1 or 2 one heartfelt connect call per day, how much more would our life be enhanced? I know mine would be. Facebook. Most of us are on Facebook. The question is, are we using it effectively? Are we using it as a tool? I ask agents all the time, are you friends with all of the people in your database? Most will say no. So one of the things I'd like you to do is print out that database, and I want you to go and friend all of those people. Friend all of them. So one of the things, if you go back and read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which is very old now, but the principles are still true. Gary Keller always talked about 33 touches a year to stay on people's mind. Today, that number is actually higher. There's ways to do that that are simpler and easier. And one of those is to get the Facebook algorithm working in your favor. So one is we get all of our friends and data and those people in our database. You'd be surprised how many people are looking at Facebook every day and aren't posting, but they're liking other people's comments, or they're even seeing them. I remember when I was doing a bunch of writing, and maybe some of you have seen my writing. When I get going for a while, I write for a month or two, something that's on my mind. And, I'd get a fair, in the beginning, I got a lot of likes, and then people just said, I've already liked it every day, so they're not liking them, but they're still reading them. One of my nephews wrote me a long note one day about how much these things have meant to him, how much it made an impact on him, and to keep writing. He had never liked or commented once. So how many people are watching you that you're not even aware of? And how many more people should we have watching you? Because that's a touch. If they see you on Facebook, that's the same as a note card. A little different in impact, but it's all about awareness. So here's the things to look out. Block out 20 to 30 minutes every day. So first is go out and keep track of friending, trying to add these people as friends. Keep track of actually who responds. And you can, in Facebook, it'll see everybody that you sent to, and you can see whether they accept it or not. Most people do not have as many friends on Facebook as all of you do. The average person, they say, has 200 to 300 friends, if that. Or most real estate agents have 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, but these people don't. So most people will accept your friend request. They're not going to do a lot of analysis around it. So then what you want to do is keep that list in front of you and go to 10 to 20 of the people in your database's profile a day. And what I want you to do is read through their stuff and like or comment or DM. So when you like somebody's comments, especially if they aren't writing a lot of stuff, that's going to start putting your Facebook algorithm, your Facebook picture in front of them more often. And remember, the less friends people have, the smaller the concentration of the posts they're seeing of the same people. And you might even see with a lot of friends, you're still not seeing a lot of people because of how you're clicking on things. So one is like and comment, even if the post is a month old. Sometimes I get a post that's like, oh, somebody liked something from a year ago. Okay. Now what I would add in this, guys, is use DM. Everybody reads their DMs. So it could be as simple as, here's another way to add to that note card, right? Hey, Jeff, just saw you here on Facebook, thought about you. How's it going? Or, hey, I was looking back through your Facebook posts, and somebody might think, oh, they're going to think I'm stalking them. Okay, well, probably not. But if your ego's that big that you think that, that's a problem. Like, it's not. But the idea is, man, I saw you had that little, man, I love your little snickerdoodle, right? Or whatever kind of dog that Joe has with the curly hair, right? So, if I write to Joe and I haven't seen him in 5 years, and I see the pictures of his dog, which he loves his dog, and I said, man, your dog is so cute. I love that picture you had. Even the picture was a year old. What's your heart going to do, Joe? You can answer.
Yeah, you win me over. You talk
Right.
about my dog, the love of my life, then you've won me
Would
over.
you think like he's a weirdo? He looked at a post that was a year old. Maybe for a moment, right? But you're going to think, oh, that's cool, right? So these are all the ways that we can simply touch our database. And what I'm talking about, guys, here is doing it in a focused fashion. Because if you just try to do that randomly when you're in between, it just doesn't get done. Now, what I'd like is like, comment. So if you went and looked at 10 to 20 people a day in your database, and I'm going to go look them up, and I'm going to see what's there. I'm going to like or comment. What you're going to find is they're going to start seeing your stuff now. And when they start seeing your stuff, that's how you stay in front of them. Now, this is challenging for many agents, is to post every day, or at least 5 days a week. And people are saying, why? That's hard. That's hard. Well, maybe. Is it harder than knocking on 100 doors a day? Probably not. So a post could be lots of different things, and you can decide what you want to do. So there's a thing in writing that's called FORD. Have anybody ever heard of this before? FORD in communication: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. So when you're out at these lunches with people, these are the things we talk about. Hey, Ed, tell me what's going on with your family, man. Oh, wow. What's going on with work? Hey, what have you guys been doing for fun? Hey, Ed, you got a vacation? What's your dreams? Or what do you want to achieve? What's most exciting you about the next couple of years? How much time could you take up? Ed and I don't know each other at all. I don't know if you're quiet, Ed, or you're a talker. Kind of unmute, Ed, would you?
John, do you have a slide for that? We're not seeing.
No, it's just right. Oh, no, I'm still, where did I miss? No, this is still it. I didn't talk about Ford, but I'm just trying to talk about it here. It just came to mind. Ed, are you a talker or are you a quiet guy?
I'm probably too much of a talker.
All right. So I don't have to get to many of those. All I got to do is start with, hey, what's going on with your family? And you're going to go on for 45 minutes. And when I'm done, I'm like, hey, that was awesome, dude. Can't wait to see you next time. And how are you going to feel that I brought up and just listened to you?
Yeah, great.
Because as talkers, we just, man, I feel really good. They listen to me, right? Like we like to share about ourselves, right? So even if you have a quiet person, now you've got 4 things and you're trying to find something that's going to spark them, right? So again, this is just Facebook. So why I'm saying this with Facebook, you can post, hey, something is going on with your family, right? Some event or something, right? And everyone has a different feeling. What's going on with work? So we're going to post something about real estate, right? It could be a statistic. It's really easy to find that stuff and people are interested, look out there. Hey, what's happening in real estate right now? Boom. Recreation. Hey, man, we just went out to the movies today. This movie is awesome, right? Post a little picture of you going to that movie, do a little thing, boom, You went out to a restaurant. Hey, here's where we're at. This restaurant was really good. You might try this thing, right? Dreams. Hey, I'm dreaming about traveling to the Middle East. Has anybody ever been there before? Can you give me some feedback, right? Hey, we want to go snowmobiling. Anybody have where we can get the rentals, right? Little things like this, but we're staying in front of everybody every day. And we want to do that because as we're liking and commenting, getting in people's algorithms, we want to be in front of them daily because they're not going to see every post. So people think we post once a week. The truth is you're not going to get the push through on that, especially if you don't have a big database. So think about these things of what you can post. It doesn't have to be that important, and realize most people aren't going to see them, and it's only going to catch with the right people. So you need to put enough, or something that says quantity creates quality. If you touch enough people, you find the right people. All right, number 5. Home valuations. So now we've got all these people in our database. We've talked about some ways to touch them, but how can we do this automatically? So the way you look at this is we're going to start with our past clients, then move to our sphere. How many people are sending out home valuations on people's properties every month automatically? Joe, how are you doing that?
HomeBot.
Yep. So HomeBot is a very inexpensive way to do that. I think it's a $50 setup if you don't partner with a lender. And it's $50 setup and $25 a month for 500 contacts. Most of you don't have more than 500 contacts. So we're talking $25 a month. And what HomeBot does, Joe, say why you like HomeBot.
Well, I'm an extremely technical and sophisticated technology guy. So for me, no, I know shit about, sorry, I know nothing about technology. And so even for somebody like myself, it makes an extremely easy way to stay and extremely easy, extremely cheap way to provide value to your database, stay connected, get engagement. It basically is my database now. So yeah, it just sends out something, an automated valuation. People start messaging, hey, how accurate is this valuation you just sent me? Shit, I could send them a CMA, they probably wouldn't get back to me and ask me. So, and it sends it to them once a month. It's just a pretty outstanding product.
And usually they're wrong.
Oh yeah,
okay.
But who cares?
And that's great because you'll get the text that Joe said, like, is this accurate? Or I think my house is worth more. This is bull crap, whatever, right? And my wife, we get them from one of our lenders all the time on our properties. And Jill will always be like, did you see that? And I'm kind of like, I don't look at it, right? But I still see it came, which is important, even if I delete it, because it's a reminder. Oh, yeah. But what Jill does always is like, John, did you see that? Is that what it's really worth? I'm like, I don't know, honey. We're not planning on selling, so it doesn't matter, right? Like, who cares? But she's still thinking about it. She opens them every time. And what it does is, one, it's a great opportunity for them, one, to think about you again. Number two, you're providing value. Now, there's other ways to do this. You could set it up in your MLS that you just do a search around their house and it just sends them comps, and they can, I mean, there might be some more ways to actually send them a CMA that's automated. But the key is this is automated. And that puts us, usually it sends out what, Joe, once a month, most of the time? That's sending a touch out every month that's of value. And it comes in a really neat format. It's got your picture there. There's some other dialogue. And you can see how many people opened it, right, Joe?
Yeah,
it
shows the engagement. It shows who. Sometimes it also shows you, which home sellers have opted in, and now all of a sudden they're on a buyer search. And you're going, all right, so now you start to see some more engagement. It lets you know which ones, based on the information that they have available in HomeBot, how much equity they have and would be more likely to be able to sell. So there's just a lot of useful information for, again, it's cheap.
And I didn't know that, Joe, but it gives them the ability to, so you've got their link in there that if they want to set a search up through your IDX, they can do that right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you can see how many people are opening it. You can see, if they start another search. Obviously, if they start the search, Joe, I'm sure it's going to be like, hey, man, you may not even tell them like you saw that, but you call them, right? Hey, what's going on?
Well, another cool thing is that they can add additional properties. So you set it up with, like, say, their owner occ, and next thing you know, it shows a guy went in there and he added 3 more of his properties to start getting monthly valuations on them. So you just can't get that kind of engagement from people. And you're not going to send them out CMAs every month on all of their properties. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. And so it's non-intrusive.
Now, the beauty of this is a service that most people would like, that if we're intentional about it, anybody you meet could say, hey, I've got this great service that'll automatically send you out a valuation of what the market's saying on your house every month. It'd be a no-brainer for me to add. That wouldn't cost you. Would you like me to add you? How many people are going to say no? Now you're actually creating value for them. You've got their name, you've got their email, you got a phone number while you're there, and you're going to add that to that. And so you can really build up that database in a very easy way. And so when you see, well, if we were to add these Facebook together and were to add home valuations, how many more visuals are they of seeing you and staying in front of them, right? And that's what we're talking about. So that when they wake up that day and they run into a friend that needs to sell, boom, your name comes to mind. They don't have to wonder, like, because if you go around and ask people, hey, who's your real estate agent? Most people go back to the same person they went to, even if they didn't do a great job. That's just the reality. But you'd be surprised to maybe get a year out and they can't remember your name. Now, they might go back and find you and figure it out and call you and say to you, hey, you still in real estate? We know we're in trouble when we get that, hey, you still in real estate? If anybody you run into that's in your sphere and they say you still selling real estate, you know you got a problem. Okay? So if this adds, it's another thing. So when you're out meeting people, add to your sphere this way. It's a great value proposition for people. Home anniversary cards. This is a simple one. We can go back to everybody who sold a house to. We can see what day it's closed. We can put it in our CRM. And again, it doesn't need to be a gift. You know, hey, Emily, I was just thinking about you. Can't believe it's been 3 years since you bought your house. Can't believe it's been 3 years since you sold your house. Hope everything's going great. Hey, never hesitate to reach out. I'd love to make contact. God bless, you know, Emily, right? Now, this is such a simple one that if we're not doing it, it's just being lazy, right? Because it's so simple to do and add into your database. Now, birthday cards. Amy just told us how much she likes getting that card once a year from her 401k guy. Do you think Amy's more likely to stay with that guy, even if he screws up a little bit, or if somebody else comes into her life, just because he's been so consistent through the years? I can tell you she is. I've heard many stories about people who say, I bought a car from this guy, and every year I get a anniversary card of when I bought my car, and I get a birthday card. And I bought 4 cars from that guy. And I've referred people to him because, man, he just thinks about us. We weren't just another transaction. So first, you got to start asking for them either up front when you meet with people. I had a process of doing that I had a form that I called What About You? If anybody wants to know more about that, I've talked about it before. We could talk about it. But you can start asking for them in closing. There's a way to put it in your CRM. Pretty simple. You could DM them. Hey, I'm just trying to be more thoughtful about people through the year. Hey, what's the day and the month you were born? You don't need the year, right? You don't need to know how old they are. But, you know, what's the day and the year? The other way to do it is with a survey with a drawing. So there's very simple applications that you can get. Jeff could probably look a couple of them really fast. But the idea is you've got all of your database and you say, hey, I'm trying to up my game, right? And I'm really trying to be more responsible with my clients and have a better way of interacting on your special days. If you respond to this with your birth, you know, the year and day of your birth, or the day and year of your, you know, not the day and month of your birthday, I'm going to put you into a drawing for a $100 gift card. Do you know what people will fill out for a $100 gift card? What have you guys filled out for a $100 gift card? What have you given away? So if you could add an extra 15 or 20 or 30 names for a $100 gift card, would that be worth it? Heck yeah. And that's a pretty simple way to go about it. So what we're doing here, think about this. First, we're adding our lunches and our breaking breads. Now we're adding, we're really focusing on our Facebook, we're adding our note cards. So we're going to make sure we're getting through our top people first. Then we're going out to all of them. And this should be an annual thing of going through your whole database, right? If you get through all of them every year, that'd be pretty cool. Now we're adding an anniversary card on their house, and we're adding birthday cards. If you do this in a structured format, it doesn't take very much time. If you try to do it haphazardly, it seems to take a lot of time. But the things like I said, sending out birthday cards, thank you cards, and your Facebook card would not take, well, I'm just saying Facebook spend 30 minutes a day. Focused, right? Focused. 20 minutes. How many could you get through? This isn't you know, and then 10 minutes to do a post. So 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, let's say. Then we're doing no cards. That's an hour a week. So we're really only talking 30, 5 times 30, right? We're talking less than 3 hours a week at the most.
You know, John, one of the things that I'd love to hear you comment on too is the business expense of this approach versus what I know you've seen because you've coached, you know, so many agents through your career. Like I feel like a lot of times agents are just throwing money at things like they're trying to put out a fire. But what I like about this approach is it's a very concentrated cost model. You're not overspending. But I don't know. What were your thoughts
Well,
on that?
it's the highest way to get response for what you're getting, right? So our goal is always, how do we get more referrals and more repeat clients? As Joanne and I talked many times, it's easy to get repeat clients because people would rather go with the devil they know than the devil they don't know. Okay? But what I want you to be measuring is how many referrals am I getting? That's where the win's at because that allows you to expand your business. Growing fast by referrals is challenging, guys. So that's why we're saying, but you want to get this base in place. Once we've got this base in place, then we start adding other marketing things that we're going to test. But it's ridiculous to test other things if you haven't got this in place. Because this is going to be your bread and butter. This is going to be your bread and butter. And you're right, Jeff, is that it's crazy how many times we go out on these websites that we're going to pay 25 or 30% referral fee at closing, and we're happy on a $12,000 deal to pay $4,000. And the question is, and guess what? People that aren't referred to you are less likely to refer you. Did you hear that? So when people come from being referred, they think that's the way the process works. They're more likely to refer you again because it worked for them. People that come in cold, it's a different training process to train them to refer. Because typically the people that are coming from cold environments aren't the people that ask for referrals. Like I'm a guy that's going to ask a bunch of people for a referral to something before I'm going to go searching the internet. So guess what? People that I refer, people that come to me are more likely that that's what they're going to do versus people that are coming in cold. Now, I had a whole process for training people that came through cold because I wanted to grow my business faster, especially I started from scratch, but it was a process. And we've talked about that before. So this is a way, again, we're just adding up some of these things. This is the one that I love. A monthly physical mailed newsletter. When I was really operating fast, I mailed 2 cards a month consistently. One was a postcard, one was a newsletter. The postcard was very simple. For any of you that know Joe Stump in the days gone past, we did it by what we call an evidence success card. And if I really start selling real estate again, that's what I do again. Just a little postcard like this, a little bigger, maybe a picture of me on it in the back, but on the front, it was just told a story. Hey, Joe, I just, hey, Emily, I just want to share a story with you that one of my clients recently came to me and they didn't think they could buy a house at all. They were referred, and so this was always it. They were referred by one of my friends or one of my clients. I like that wording, right? They were referred and they didn't think they could buy, but, Mary said that they should call me because we've been able to do some miracles. And come to find out, they didn't have any money down, but they thought they couldn't qualify. Now, remember, most people think they have to have 20% down. If you walk in the public today, even today, and you ask 50 random people how much they think they have to have as a percentage down payment to buy a house, over 70% would say 20%. Okay? So people aren't educated, but they get the story. And even if they bought a house from you and they put 20%, they still think that. So, hey, Mary referred us to these clients. They came in and met with me because they really wanted to buy. They had great jobs. They had great credit, but they didn't have really a down payment. We were actually able to get them into a house with no money down. I got the seller to pay most of their closing costs, and they were able to get into a house and only cost them $500 out of pocket. If you know of anybody that's worried about not having a down payment, give me a call. It's a miracle. It's amazing what we can do today. So that's kind of things with having success. The newsletter, you can get these online very cheap right now for that are real estate specific, and they'll have the articles already put in them. And ideally what you do is you have a space where you can write something once a month. And the writing is very simple. It goes back to family, occupation, recreation. 1 month you share a little bit about what's going on with your family. 1 month you share something about the real estate, right? 1 month you share about a trip you went on or a weekend, a ski trip you went on. The next month is, hey, what are your dreams? And what I found when I did that consistently, now, of course, the women read it more than the men, but my clients would be like, oh, yeah, my wife puts that newsletter and I end up reading it in the bathroom, right? What's your guys telling me, right? I'm like, yeah, I read, that's my toilet reading. I'm like, oh, thanks a lot, right? However, the newsletter provided value. There's not that much that comes in the mail anymore. I mean, I know I'm out there a lot, so I own a bunch of properties so people can find me and they mail me, but I know I get more mail than most people, and I still only get 2 or 3 pieces a day, and I can tell and I sort it out. But the idea is mail works today better than it ever has. And you're finding more and more top agents are going back to this because they realize it's working. So again, the newsletter is like, I think you can get one where it's like 50 or 75 bucks a month for the template. And then you're going to have to mail it. Depending on how big your database is, and when you're sending bulk, it's cheaper. But again, what I was talking about is if you could get to where you were spending $1,000 a month on your database, I can tell you it's going to pay dividends to you way beyond what you can imagine. So again, it's not that complicated, guys. You don't have to write the whole newsletter. There's some of them now with even AI that will write some things and act like you wrote it. But the key is, I would write the basics of what I wanted for if you're concerned about writing, I would write out chicken scratch what I'm thinking, put most of it down, put it into ChatGPT and let it clean it up. And then edit the ChatGPT to make sure it's in your words and it didn't do anything that was. But again, people are not looking to see that you're an elegant writer. They want to see that you're not stupid. But that's pretty easy to correct with ChatGPT. And you can even have a friend proofread it. But I can tell you this would be another thing that I would be doing every month. And if you have too many people in your sphere to start doing that right away, then start with your top 50 and add another 50 until you can start getting that to your full amount of people going out. Does anybody use a newsletter consistently? Emily, you do? Tell me about it, Emily.
I just do constant contact, just email. I do it once a month. I hate it, but I do it.
So I'm going to tell you, I think, again, something's better than nothing, right? However, email is just too easy to delete.
Yeah.
And it ends up and I'm not saying we shouldn't have that. I would just add the printed piece to it because people have to physically touch it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they just look at it and touch it and then throw it out, it's way more than an email impression. Just my opinion, guys. And this is what I found. You're seeing more and more top. But hey, what I'm saying, Emily, I love what you're doing. And I wouldn't stop what you're doing. I would add a physical piece to it.
Yeah.
So let's see what we got.
I can print it because if I have to create something else.
No, you know what? I
Wouldn't do
created it and I sent it to a printer. And then they folded it for me and they labeled it and stamped it.
Sounds easy.
Even if you had 250 people, it's not going to cost you more than $1.50 or $2 a piece. And again, what I talked about is if you could be utilizing all these things and spending $750, $1,000 a month in your database, that's the most effective $750 you're ever going to spend. What I found is there's 2 types of agents for the most part. Well, that's wrong, but I'll just give you the basic. One is we find people that are really good at getting leads and closing cold deals. But oftentimes they're really bad at creating referrals. And they don't really love on their people. And so they end up chasing all the time. I'm not saying they're not doing business, but it's exhausting. And maybe they get really good and their cost per lead goes down, but still it's much more exhausting than a referred lead. The other is I find people say they're by referral only, but they don't do it in a structured, intentional way. So they're not maximizing what they could with that. And so, especially if you've been in the business 6, 7 years, you've done a couple hundred transactions, that's enough to really start getting 20 deals a year, especially as your people start double dipping. And especially with the price point we have today. If your average deal is, $12,000, and that's a pretty big deal. You do 20 deals, 24 deals, and you're at, what is that? You're at 300,000 gross. So what the key is, we want to figure out how do we maximize our past client, our database. And then once we've maximized that, then we start adding the other things on top of it. Like, how do we start getting cold leads? How do we do something? Now, if we don't have much of a database, then we might need to start with that right away. But most people, I find, they're better off really nailing their database first and really focusing and getting consistent, then going out if they've been in the business for a while. Would you agree, Jeff?
Absolutely. I think that the database is the goal, right? It's like the whole entire point of doing cold traffic at some level is just to build a database, because the database is the end zone. Once you have that database in place, I mean, John was talking about different conversion metrics, and you can track this internally, but once you've got it built, you should be at least recycling some percentage of that based on referral. And these referrals don't cost you anything more than the cost of postage or printing, or, these are very low level commitments. It's not paying $10,000 a month to some traffic source to supposedly
You're
build
using this at your open house. Instead of having that old dated sign-in sheet, run this for those buyers. And then press that share icon in the top right corner and say, hey,
I think you need to
text this over to you. What's your phone number? That's a better way to get their phone number. With the sign-in sheet, you're hoping that they put their real phone number in.
I don't know what that is.
You're actually giving them an item of value.
I'm not sure, John.
Care about, and you're able to
Novos iPhone. Can you
get their phone number from them in that way. So definitely a cool tactic that I wanted to mention. But I also
I don't know who that is.
Wow, we will be carving that out. Anyway,
class. So one of the things I found people do so often is that if you ask most agents that have been in the 20 years in the business, you know what most of their regret is? They didn't keep track of their database. They didn't keep track of all their past clients. They didn't stay in the relationships they needed to. They had a couple years where they got tired, or a couple years where they got so busy they didn't pay attention. And then it's like they feel it's just so overwhelming to recreate. And so wherever you're at in the business, if you got a reconnoiter and go back to it and get it done. Dig deep, go back and find them. Use the sources on the internet. So let's talk to the next. This one I thought was really cool, guys. And I just
hey, John, we lost your screen share.
Oh.
That's my fault, I think.
Right there. So this one's really cool. Just adding a refer a friend to the, let me just see here, to your email signature. And there's a little piece of software that does it. So if you just look that up on the internet, of just how do I add this to it? So all it does is I click on, it goes to this little one-page website, and it adds the person's name. And I'm sure you can add a few more pieces there if you choose to. But it's just another simple way to, one is to remind people that you're looking for referrals. Another simple way for them to do it. Now, this is one that people have different opinions about. A lot of people say, I don't want to ask for referrals. If I do a good enough job, people should just refer me. Okay. That's what you want to think, and that's the way you want to do it. I can tell you I've started over in 3 different markets, and I've built a very big referral base really fast. And it's because I really focused on asking referrals and being bold about it, but in a way that was said to serve them. So if you heard that dialogue earlier, it'd be, Joanne, I want to really serve your friends. I want to serve more people like you. You're awesome. I love working with you, Joanne. I'm sure your friends are just like you. Would you be open to referring them to me?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Yes.
John, let me share with you what I found. Would that be okay?
Sure.
And I tell the story. Hey, I know that you've probably given my name out before, or you've given names out, and then your friends, people have given you names, and then you lose it, or you don't call back, or you don't remember. And then your friends can end up working with an agent that's not very good. You don't want that to happen, do you? And often this is said after they tell me how great I am, right? After the deal closes, Emily, you're so awesome. I really appreciate you helping us, and our house is great. Oh, Emily, I'm so glad you noticed that. It really matters to me. I'd love to work with more people like you because it's been awesome. I just love people like you. And you're so appreciative and you're so kind. And you're so thoughtful about how you think about it. You were so smart in how you picked out houses. Hey, would you be open to referring me other people like you? Emily would say, sure. Well, hey, yeah, because my business just, you were referred to me, and this is really the lifeblood of my business. So I'm not out. How I was able to serve you at a high level and get calls back to you and think about you. If I was just chasing leads all day, I couldn't do that. And the way I do that is because people refer me. So if you're open to refer me, I'd love it. If you have friends that are thinking about buying or selling the next year, could you call me and just introduce me and give me their name and number? Would you be open to that? She'd say, yeah. I said, well, let me tell you, Emmy, please don't just give me my name, because a lot of times people give me their name and they come to me and said, I've given 5 people your name and no one ever called me. Because then I give the story, abbreviated story of the idea that, hey, they lost the car, they did something, and we don't want your friends to end up in a bad situation, do you? So what I'm getting at is, I say the same, asking it should be given, seeking it should be found, right? It's like we need to ask for what we want. And what we have to truly believe is, and this is what I truly believed, nobody is going to serve your friend, Emily, at a higher level than I am. There doesn't mean there's not other people that do as good a job, because there's lots of good real estate agents. But I truly felt nobody was going to care about them as much as I was. Nobody was going to work as hard as I was for them. And no one was going to make sure that their interest was protected as much as I was. Now, hopefully everybody agent feels that way. But that felt me convicted enough that I knew that by me offering to help their friends, I was going to make them feel better because their friend was going to thank them that they referred me. Do you have that conviction in your heart, guys? If you don't, why? What do we need to do to help you feel that way? If it's a personal self-image thing, then what classes do we need to go to? What counselor do we need to go to realize that? Because I believe all of us can do this and have this intrinsic value. So what is it? And this is where I always get back, and Joe and I often talk about this, is that all of these things that we talked about, lots of them are executable. But if we can learn to do it from the heart and our mind and have the confidence to do it that we should be able to have, everything comes together. And as Joe and I talk about, what's his name, Joe? One of the greatest personal development guys says, if you want to make a living, just work on your job from 9 to 5. If you want to get wealthy, work on yourself harder. And so, from 5 o'clock till 12 o'clock, be working on your own mind.
Sounds like it would have been Jim Rohn.
Jim Rohn, thank you, Joe. And that's what I'd be saying now. So we can give you tactics and I can give you strategies. And if you execute these tactics and strategies, they will work. If you can learn, and we can learn, it's a continual process. Trust me. Jeff and I were just talking about that this morning. I forgot on that I'm always having to work on this goofy mind of mine. But if we can learn to work on our hearts and our minds and how we can communicate with people at a higher level, so when we have the opportunity, we're able to connect at a higher level, that we feel confident, because often we don't feel confident about what we're doing. And I can tell you, each one of you are special. Each person on this call is super special. And if you really understand the gift you can be to people, you're going to want to make sure their friends refer you because their people are going to be loved and taken care of like nobody else. And maybe somebody else has a different quality, or maybe somebody knows a little bit more about this and that. But what I can tell you is people care more about how much you care about them than they care about how much you know. And when we can combine these two pieces together, our hearts and our minds, things can explode. If we have our heart, but we don't do the tactics, oftentimes our business won't grow. We're going to have a great relationships with people. But if we just do the tactics, but we haven't figured out how to make our heart and our communication skills, it'll grow, but it won't grow at the same level. If we can put these two together and meld them, you can see beautiful things happen beyond what you thought was imaginable. And that's why we need to keep working on our business and in our business. And we need to keep working on our mind to become better at our craft, better at how we think, better at controlling our emotions, more disciplined. And we put those two together, no matter what the market is, you're going to win. That's it. I got 6 minutes left. I was like, oh, this is only 10 things. I'm like, I don't know if this can last an hour and a half. Only me, right, Joe? Just keep talking. So there's some other things we can add on top of this, guys. And I'm just going to, since I got a few minutes, I want to ask a few questions, but I'm going to give you a couple other items. So some of you have the gift of entertainment. What I'm going to recommend to you, if you have the gift of entertainment and you love having social events, what I would recommend is you have a party at your house every 2 or 3 weeks. And you pick out 5 or 10 couples that you'd like to invite. And maybe you think you could strategize. I think they're going to get along. They wouldn't get along. It doesn't really matter. But you have get-togethers every 3 weeks, every 2 weeks with 4 or 5 couples. Because again, people feel differently about people that invite them to their home and when they've been in their environment. Again, there's 2 things. One is we're doing this for a reason. We're intentional. I know that if I do this enough, it's going to benefit me. I don't know if this one's going to work, but I know overall it's going to do. But you're also going to find that if that's your gift and you get empowered from it, I don't know what that disc profile would be, Jeff. Probably a high I.
Probably.
High I. You're going to find you're more powered. And when you're more powered, you're going to find you're going to have more results. So that's one of the things. These things about having a pumpkin thing going out. That takes a little more organization. But again, it's a way to touch what the beauty of that is, it's a way to touch a large amount of people. So when we're doing messaging, you can either talk one-on-one or you can talk one in a group. Today I could have called you all up and did an hour and a half with each of you and shared each of this. Would it have been effective? Probably. Would it have been more effective? Maybe, because I'm one-on-one with each of you. But how could I possibly do that consistently over time? I can't. So when you can learn to communicate one to many, especially with impact. So the other one that we talk about, that one of our good friends does a movie night once a quarter, has an event. His whole business is built around the event. The whole event is about inviting people to the event, doing the event, and then telling how great the event was. And that happens once a quarter. And all of his business comes from that because he refers people. He has his friends bring people to that. So it's all about the promotion of the event, doing the event and after. So there's all types of ways to be creative, but we don't want to be creative until we've got the basics done. Because if we try to be creative before we have the basics, we end up not doing things consistently. Anybody have anything they'd like to add or any thoughts? Has everybody got all this nailed down already? Everybody got all their database ready? Is anybody motivated to go get their database done? Come on.
Yes, good job, John. Really good stuff.
So much work to do, man. That's awesome.
You guys, this year is going to be a great year for those that choose for it to be a great year. You know, we may not have a big drop in rates. I think we're going to have a little uptick in amount of transactions. However, those that dig in right now and do the work are going to win. So many agents I talk to, I talk to some agents every day, oh, we just quit selling houses pretty much unless the people call because it's too hard. And what I found is the less we do, the less we do. So, you know, so if we can start adding those lunches, we can start adding those cards, that motivates us to start doing the other deals. And also starts helping us to compress what we need done. Right? So I always say, if you're not that busy right now, then decide that you got to get all your work done in 3 hours a day. Compress it down, because whatever you have, you will let it expand to the time you give it. That's why, like, single moms that are real estate agents get a lot of stuff done. Because they know they've only got these little windows to get things done, and they get it done. And then you got an agent that's got the whole day and they don't hardly get anything done because they can just let it flow. And I struggle with that. So, all right, guys, I love you. And again, if any of you want to reach out and talk to me a little bit more about this, or you have some particular questions, just reach out. I'll schedule the time. I'd be honored. Don't feel intimidated to call, because I'd just be honored to help in any way I can. And I just believe in all of you. And I want you just to believe in yourselves that this year is going to be you're going to learn things and do things that you never thought imaginable. All right. God bless.